Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I make a hammer eye drift. The thicker end of the drift will be about 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch, tapered down to about 1/4 inch towards the tip. This bar is 1 inch round and I'm going to use a long enough piece, that way I don't need to use the tongs, and I'll use this little microphone stand that I have to help prop it up. So the first thing I do is take it to the press and draw this material out to a taper. I'll do one pass and then turn it and do another pass to square it up. And I always take it to the anvil in between each pass just to keep things straight. The press that I'm using is the little 5-ton log splitter press that I made. If you want to see the video on how I made the press, I'll put the link right here in the top right corner. I'm running the press up past where it's hot, so that way I'll get that natural taper. It won't press down as far where it's a little cooler, so it helps give that natural taper. I try not to work the cool section too much though, because I don't want to cause any stress fractures. Once I establish the taper with the press, I'll switch to the anvil and clean up all the press marks and make sure that everything is squared up nice and evenly. Once I get it squared up nice and evenly and remove all the press marks, I'll go ahead and switch to the cross peen section of the hammer and start drawing out the material towards the tip, just to give it more length and help establish that taper even further. Then I switch back to the press and blend that taper into the thickest part of where the eye will be. And then I just clean that transition up on the base of the anvil. I cut the extra material off the back where I was holding it, and so now I'll flip it around and start forging in the handle. I use the press to square up the handle, and I don't want a taper in it this time, so I make sure I work it with the even heat. And I don't have kiss blocks yet, so I don't want to get it too hot and accidentally squeeze it too far. So I just kind of did a little bit of work on the press and then finished it up on the anvil. So now that I have the taper and the length that I need for the drift, I'll go ahead and put in a 45-degree bevel all the way down the edges. That way it'll be a lot easier to round everything over later. I'll start towards the tip and work my way back. I'll heat up each section as I'm going and try to keep the bevels as even as I can all the way up. Once I'm completely done forging, I'll go ahead and let it cool down in the forge overnight and let it anneal itself. I use the large contact wheel on the belt grinder, and then I'll grind down each section to true metal, including the corners. And then I'll switch to a slack belt and round over all the corners. So I want the surface to be pretty smooth, that way it'll glide through the metal a lot easier. So I went ahead and sanded the surface up to a 240 grit on the belt grinder before I do the heat treat. So we definitely want to harden the 4140. So what I'm going to do is get it heated up to about 1550 degrees, and I'll let that soak for a few minutes while I heat up my oil. I'm going to heat the oil up to 120 degrees and then I'll quench. And I am using the Parks 50 quench oil. I use a little temperature gun to check my temperatures and make sure that I'm close to 1550 as possible. I kept it in the quench oil for a pretty long time. I'm not exactly sure, but it was probably 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm just going to let it cool down in the vise for a few minutes and then I'll test it out with the files. The file skates really nice along the entire drift, so I'm going to go ahead and temper it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 1.5 hours. And now it's time to drift the eye. So I'm gonna try and keep the drift as cool as I can throughout this whole process. So I'll keep it in a bucket of water between heats. And I'll flip it over after each heat and work it from the opposite side. I use this little vise to give me a little extra height over the hardy hole. And for a little extra height on top of that, I'll just tighten the jaws and go over this section. I switched to the punch just to give it the hourglass shape right at the top. And now I'm another step closer to making my own hammer. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.